Right now, on to the point. Could cherished public land be up for sale?
The potential consequences could be devastating in Tahoe.
Why it could happen, as some call it a massive giveaway. Developing tonight, a ceasefire deal in the Middle East after Iran fires missiles at U.S. troops in Qatar. What we're learning tonight about the attack. Plus, Iran and oil prices. What the escalating conflict could mean for your prices at the pump.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Developing tonight, Tahoe is not for sale. That is the message from the nonprofit Keep Tahoe Blue. Tonight, as the federal government explores the sale of public lands, including in the Tahoe Basin, groups and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are speaking out. ABC10's Becca Hotbecker joins us in studio to break everything down.
Alex, this is a proposal Senate Republicans included in something called the Budget Reconciliation Bill. It's part of ongoing negotiations over President Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Senate Republicans want to sell federal land to generate revenue and build more housing. Bipartisan opponents say this isn't the way to do it.
Lake Tahoe is a gem of Northern California and tourist destination drawing visitors from around the world. Much of the land in the Tahoe Basin is federally owned and now, under a new federal proposal, could be up for sale.
The potential consequences could be devastating in Tahoe.
Noah Banayan is government affairs manager for the League to Save Lake Tahoe, also known as Keep Tahoe Blue. She's worried about a proposal from the U.S. Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. This map, created by the Wilderness Society, shows some 250 million acres of public federal land across 11 western states. Under the proposal by Senate Republicans, the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management would be required to sell approximately 3 million acres of this over the next 5 years. Land that could be for sale includes much of the Tahoe Basin.
When you look at the map and you see places like Kiva Beach, where, people love to take their dogs, Fallen Leaf Lake and Inspiration Point around Emerald Bay. I mean, these are some of the most beautiful places in California, in the West, in the world, dare I say. These public lands are what make Tahoe, Tahoe. And without that, potentially in the future, is really scary to think about what it would look like in Tahoe.
The Senate committee says President Trump recognized the connection between federal land ownership and the housing crisis, which is why he pledged to open up portions of federal land for large-scale housing construction. This proposal allows a fraction of 1% of federal land to be used to build houses.
I urge my colleagues to oppose any plan that would supersede the will of our local communities.
Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley of Rockland, whose district includes Tahoe, opposes this proposal.
It is so important that any decisions made regarding the acquisition or disposition of these lands be made only after significant and meaningful local input.
Democratic Congressman Mike Thompson also opposes it. His district includes federal lands as well.
This didn't go through any hearings. There wasn't any process that was followed to designate these lands as surplus lands. It doesn't seem to me that that is honoring the people of the United States of America who have every right to access these public lands.
California's senators, both Democrats, are also opposed to this proposal and say they plan to fight it.
I reached out to the U.S. Forest Service and USDA for comment and did not hear back. As for what's next, a lot could change between now and when the bill becomes law. The Senate still has to vote on the budget reconciliation bill. Then it goes back to the House, where members can make additional changes and then work with the Senate to come up with one version of the bill. Alex?
All right, Becca, thank you. Also included in the tax and spending cuts are provisions that would ease regulations on gun silencers and certain short-barreled rifles and shotguns. Georgia Republican and gun store owner Andrew Clyde first pushed for the measure in the House, removing silencers from a 1930s law and eliminating a $200 tax and reducing background checks. The Senate version goes even further, adding sawed-off rifles and shotguns to the list. Republicans say it's about protecting gun owners' rights. Democrats warn it could help criminals and shooters avoid detection as the bill moves through Congress before President Trump's July 4th deadline. All right, turning now to the conflict in the Middle East. President Donald Trump says Israel and Iran have agreed to a ceasefire. Trump says the battle between the two countries could be over in the next 24 hours. However, Iran's foreign minister says there is no agreement on any ceasefire. They say they will stop its attacks if Israel stops its airstrikes. And it comes after Iran launched a barrage of missiles towards American troops stationed in Qatar today, retaliating against the U.S. for bombing its nuclear sites. Iran firing missiles at the Al Udeid air base. It's the largest U.S. air base in the Middle East, home to some 10,000 American troops. A U.S. official telling ABC News the U.S. intercepted the missiles with no impacts on the base.
It really is a heartbeat of the Middle East in terms of our presence there and the use of air forces, and certainly have been supporting the Iran attack. You know, they have been well prepared to receive this. They're well defended.
It comes as there are some major questions about how much of Iran's nuclear program was destroyed in Saturday's attack. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says it's still too early to tell the full scope. President Trump is now floating the idea of a regime change in Iran. Trump posting online, quote, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? The administration clarifying it thinks the regime change should come from within Iran. And the conflict with Iran could have a major impact on oil and gas prices in the United States. Today, oil prices are down, but that could change quickly if Iran decides to shut down a major sea passage. ABC's Melissa Don explains.
The U.S. strikes against Iran over the weekend may impact oil and gas prices around the world and in the U.S. President Trump posting this today on social media saying, everyone, keep oil prices down. I'm watching. You're playing right into the hands of the enemy. Don't do it. Iran is threatening to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway between Iran and Oman, where 20% of the world's oil passes through daily. While there has not been a surge in oil prices in the U.S. so far, at the pump this morning, the national average is $3.22. Gas Buddy is forecasting as high as $3.50 a gallon in the days ahead.
Oil prices will continue to move depending on the actions of what happened in the Middle East. If there's a slight shift in the risk calculus, that could send oil up. If there are de-escalations, that could send oil back lower again.
If Iran were to close the Strait of Hormuz for an extended time, Goldman Sachs believes oil prices could soar above $100 a barrel. It's at about $75 now. Iran has made that threat before, but never followed through because oil is a huge driver of its own economy, funding the country's military and security. While only a small amount of oil the U.S. uses travels through the strait, up to 50% of China's oil imports come from Iran.
China is really the only large purchaser of Iranian crude oil, which has been heavily sanctioned by many other countries. That's why Iran is now so reliant on China. So to upset China would also inflict even more damage onto Iran's economy.
Analysts believe any oil price spike would not last long, as the U.S. Navy could likely intervene to keep the strait open, as seen in the 1980s during the Iran-Iraq War. Melissa Don, ABC News, Los Angeles.
New tonight, the Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to restart the removal of migrants to countries other than their homelands. This lifts a previous court order requiring they get a chance to challenge the deportations. The move follows a case where 8 were deported to South Sudan despite a judge's order. Still ahead on To The Point, tragedy on Lake Tahoe. What we're learning tonight about a deadly incident that led to a boat capsizing just over the weekend.
And seasonal temperatures tomorrow and really for much of this week. Highs near 90. Definitely not the case, though, everywhere across the country. We'll talk about that after the break.
And later, the history of Sacramento's pride, how the celebration grew into what it is today, and how that fight is still far from over. Welcome back in. It was another warm and beautiful day as we take a live look over downtown Sacramento. Let's get things over to meteorologist Brendan Minchev with a look at your forecast.
Very seasonal today, and that's what we're going to see once again tomorrow. Average high about 90, and that's where we were across most of the valley. 93 in Sacramento, 92 in Stockton, 90 down in Tracy, 90 in Modesto, 93 Marysville, 80s in the foothills, 60s and 70s up in the high country. Again, very seasonal, within a couple degrees of normal in the valley. Temperatures at the moment still in the 90s for some. Elk Grove already down to 88, 92 in Sacramento, 91 Stockton, 89 in Modesto, 84 Jackson, 63 in Truckee, and 64 in South Lake Tahoe. And we're starting to see that delta breeze developing, about 18 miles per hour in Fairfield, closer to 10 across most of the valley at the moment. And that again is expected to pick up over the next couple of hours. It's going to stay a little breezy through the overnight hours as well. So cool to start Tuesday morning. I've got 56 in Sacramento, 58 in Stockton, 62 Modesto, 50s in the Delta. We got some 60s in the foothills, 30s in the high country. It'll be cool through the overnight hours. That average low 58, but again, it's going to be a little bit breezy and temperatures a couple degrees cooler than normal. 83 in Twain Harte tomorrow, 79 Pollock Pines, 88 in Auburn, 93 in Oroville, 70s in the high country with another chance of showers and isolated thunderstorms, 75 San Jose, 60 in San Francisco, about 86 in Vacaville and across the valley tomorrow. Seasonal, warm, upper 80s and low 90s for most, but it's not like that across the country. Upper 90s and triple digits across much of the eastern part of the U.S. No heat alerts for us, right? Again, seasonal, it's very nice, but for 160 million people in the eastern third of the country, we're looking at record afternoon heat and very warm nighttime temperatures continuing through Wednesday for some, with heat indices, especially along the Atlantic coast, up to 110 degrees because a high pressure is sitting right over the eastern part of the U.S. That's, again, bringing those record high temperatures and feels like temps near 110. It's nothing like that here on the West Coast. It's very nice, very seasonal, a little warmer for the weekend, but nothing out of the ordinary for late June. Alex.
Coming up on To the Point, new details in a tragedy on Lake Tahoe as the body of the last missing boater is recovered. What we're learning tonight about the conditions on the lake. Plus, a new era for the A's, the team breaking ground on its new stadium, what it means for the team's future in California. Welcome back in. We are learning new details tonight surrounding a deadly boating accident in South Lake Tahoe just over the weekend. The El Dorado County Sheriff's Office says that they have found the body of the last missing person. Officials say fast-moving winds up to 45 miles per hour capsized a boat near DL Bliss State Park Saturday afternoon. 10 people were thrown right into the water. 8 have now been confirmed dead. 2 others we know are in the hospital. The National Weather Service in Reno says an unusual weather system came through the Sierra.
You go back and look at the radar data, you'd be like, okay, there's some showers there, but you wouldn't have expected those to have produced intense winds on the lake.
And the identity of the victims has not yet been released. South Lake Tahoe's mayor is urging visitors to consider hiring a boat captain if they're unfamiliar with the lake's unpredictable conditions. Police in Elk Grove are investigating a deadly shooting that left 2 people dead. It happened at a home off Triple Fin Way just before 6 this morning. Police tell ABC 10 it doesn't appear to be random and they are not looking for any suspects. The Athletics broke ground on their future home field in Las Vegas this morning. It's been 4 years in the making. The A's wrapped up their final season in Oakland in September. They are currently playing home games in West Sacramento until the Vegas stadium is ready. Relocating the stadium has been a long process due to legal challenges and financing issues, but the ballpark is scheduled to open in 2028. All right, so every June, Sacramento celebrates Pride with a very colorful parade and festival, but it wasn't always like this. It wasn't always visible or widely embraced. The city's first Pride events took place behind closed gates, out of public view, in quiet gatherings that planted the seed for a growing movement. ABC 10's Andy Judson takes us through the history of Pride right here in Sacramento and how it grew into one of the region's most significant LGBTQ+ celebrations.
Before glitter filled the streets and Capitol Mall became a sea of rainbow flags, Sacramento's LGBTQ community celebrated Pride in a very different place.
We actually went out into some guy's farm.
4 decades ago, no parades, no big stages.
Buses of us and cars, loads of us, and I remember going into the back gate of the guy's farm, and we had a softball game or two, volleyball, and a big picnic.
Those early gatherings sparked a journey for Terry Seide, now one of Sacramento's most prominent LGBTQ leaders.
People in San Francisco and other big cities would refer to us as Sacramento, you know, and I didn't think it was very funny.
So he got to work, ripening our city for the LGBTQ community to thrive. He launched some of Sacramento's first gay establishments, including Faces nightclub, an anchor of what would become Lavender Heights, and brought big names to town.
I think I had the Weather Girls. I actually had the Village People here in 1987, so no more Sacramento.
He also helped start one of the most enduring institutions of all, Sacramento's first LGBTQ center, what would become a lifeline for so many.
We decided to open a gay center.
Today, that center is led by David Heitzman, who knows the groundwork laid by those who came before him.
Pride generally is a commemoration of the Stonewall riots, but here in our own community, the first Pride parade was in 1979, and it followed a raid at the Upstairs Downstairs bar here in Sacramento.
That raid sparked Sacramento's first official Pride March. In 1979, around 800 people took to the streets. The headline, SacTow's first gay pride parade is a big success.
It was a time when we didn't have very many legal rights as LGBT people, so I really admired those who came before me.
In the 46 years since, the march has evolved, moving from McKinley to Southside Park.
And then eventually moving to Capitol Mall, where we're front and center on the steps of the state capitol in the great state of California.
The move to Capitol Mall came in 2010, marking a major milestone in its evolution and visibility, and going from less than 1,000 people to
tens of thousands of people that are lining the streets.
Through the years, Jolene Tierney has been there, documenting Pride's transformation.
I think I started taking photos of Pride in like 2010. So to watch how it changed and how it grew, it's history, and it's history and herstory.
Jolene attended her first Sacramento Pride in 1981. Years later, she picked up her camera to capture what it means to our community.
It's joy. I'm capturing the joy.
She's seen that joy spread, inspiring new celebrations.
It's the reason why we have Placer Pride now, and Davis, and West Sac, and those things, that people get energized to go into their small community and do a Pride event.
But not everything has moved forward. Jolene says the hate her community faces has grown louder.
I said I came out in '79. I felt safer then if I had a girlfriend to hold her hand in public than I do today. The bigots and the racists have been given permission to come out of their closet.
Sacramento's LGBT Center says they've seen a major retraction this year from corporate partners, government agencies, even individual supporters.
So I think that it's more important now than ever that our community really shows up in support of the LGBTQ community.
To celebrate how far Pride in Sacramento has come and how far it still has to go.
But if it makes us stand up stronger for other people, more people get involved, then so be it.
And we want to mention this isn't the only story that we're sharing for Pride this month. From the history of Lavender Heights to an inclusive cheer team raising money for the LGBTQ plus organizations and so much more. You can find all of our stories on our free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app that's available on your TV. All right, still ahead, a Central Valley community is facing a water crisis. Stay with us for a sneak peek of what we're working on for tomorrow. Coming up tomorrow and To the Point, a Central Valley community is facing a dire deadline. Either approve a massive water rate hike or have their supply shut off. Diablo Grande, once envisioned as a golf resort paradise, now at risk of going dry. With time running out, the community's water district is scrambling for a new water source. State and county leaders say they cannot help, and it's leaving residents asking what comes next.
It's very hard to believe that, there isn't an entity that can come forward and help us find a solution, find a way out of this.
The resort community of Diablo Grande now fighting to stay afloat. ABC 10's Luke Clary will be bringing us that story right here at 6:30 on To The Point. As always, thank you so much for starting your week with us and inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think me and the team should be looking into, you can always email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.